Hello. Patrick, Henrik, thank you both for being here. Good to see each other in person, not behind a Zoom, not that we didn't get that, but. So I want to kick things off this afternoon by doing a little rapid fire round where I'm going to say a word and then you give me your one-word response. So we're going to start with Henrik, we'll start with you. Customer behavior.
Demanding.
Patrick.
Accelerating.
Okay. Airbnb.
Open up a category.
Partner.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Ooh. Which beach? No, mountains.
Mountains.
Beach.
Beach, okay. Professionally managed or mom and pop?
Professionally managed.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
Everything has its category.
Okay, all right. SPACs.
An interesting way.
One word.
Okay.
Okay, you can
Untimely.
start. Okay.
Capital.
Okay. Okay, last one, fragmentation. You can
Huge.
start. Huge?
Huge.
All right. That's what we're going to get to then. So on the topic of fragmentation, what are a couple of the big changes you've seen in fragmentation of the landscape in Europe? Compare it now to, say, 3 years ago. What are you seeing that's differently? You can kick it off.
I probably have been surprised by how, if you compare it to what happened in the hotel space, OTA space, the fragment went from very fragmented to much less fragmentation in a relatively short period of time. That is taking a lot longer in vacation rental, and that has been a bit of a surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like when we started Home2Go, fragmentation was one of the main key factors because this market is so fragmented with all the different players in the market, from OTAs to like property managers to really like small mom and pop property managers or even private hosts. And so this is still the reality if we look at it. Yeah? So Home2Go, for instance, has more than 45,000 connected partners. That already shows what the fragmentation still is like. Yeah.
Yeah. From a customer perspective, is it more welcomed by them than it would be, say, an aggregator?
You mean in terms of?
Because they can get more variety, for example.
Yeah, sure. So the Home2Go marketplace is basically a hybrid model, right? So we have partners where we are sending out traffic, and we have partners like the Aways companies where we directly generate bookings within the marketplace. And I think for the customer, it's a huge benefit to have everything in one place.
Mm-hmm. Anything to add on the fragmentation?
No. I think that because of the uniqueness of the inventory, that sort of kind of speaks to, and owners tend to, even if they manage themselves or go via professional agencies, there is a dedication to the area they're in. There's a dedication to being sometimes in control, and so yeah. So I think that there's more fragmentation in this category. There's still companies we find. In the UK, a market we know really well, and suddenly it's like, oh, there's somebody else in Cornwall, and they have 400 properties, and we have pretty good eyes on the ground, and we still discover new ones. It's fascinating.
Right. So turning back to my first word was customer behavior. What are you seeing that's different, and how have you had to adapt with products and services, especially as people want remote work, they want flexibility, these longer-term stays. How have you had to adapt to this evolving customer behavior?
Yeah, okay. I think obviously COVID put a lot of pressure on the overall market. Like we ourselves have seen an interesting 2020 with minus 90% in the beginning of the pandemic, and then more than or around plus 100% later in later months with almost like the same numbers if you're equaling out the 2020. And one of the reasons was obviously that there was consumer demand shifting to domestic, and consumer demand shifting to more flexible kind of topics. So at Home2Go, we had, for instance, 2015-16, we already pioneered our flexible search that later some other companies bragging about that they invented it. But in the end, this is something where we saw a huge uptake, 6 times higher usage. Also nearby destinations where we created new filters around that you can travel near to your basically destination you're coming from. on the other side, you see all these things around workation, or where people like simply can use basically the classic inventory that we both cater to a lot, like these rural vacation rentals that normally have been primarily used in vacation times, now being used also on the shoulder seasons for vacation or prolonging your actual vacation. So, and there's a lot of these things that we see as an educating topic. So we also saw it just with the facts that you put out there. People for the first time using vacation rentals and are now like educated on using it also going forward. And as we are now like speaking about coming out of the pandemic, what we see for sure, like international travel is getting bigger and bigger. But vacation rentals for sure, everyone speaks about a potential recession and so on, are a cheaper option and an option that is always very resilient in any kind of crisis and has been shown in COVID-19 again.
Are they always the cheapest option, though?
For us, yes.
Okay.
I would assume, yeah.
I think to that point, I think vacation rentals is an extremely good value for money. Now, it may not always be the cheapest, but like, in terms of what you can get, if you get some of our larger homes in Belgium or in Croatia, I mean, they're fantastic. So I think from value for money, great. In terms of what we're seeing from the consumer behavior, it's very much going in terms of what happened with hotels and other categories, which is people are booking closer to arrival. Midterm, sort of shorter stays are becoming much more prevalent. So these are things that, in the past, it used to be very much a 7-day product that you booked a year in advance. And we still have those customers doing that, but we're clearly getting a number of customers, as per your data, who come from the hotel category. And what they want and expect is also to go more frequently, go on the days they want to come and arrive. And I think with that, when I mentioned demanding at the beginning of when you gave me the rapid fire question, is they have expectations of being having a good product when they arrive.
Right.
And I think what you will see over time in this category is, and it's already happening, is because of reviews, because of the product becoming much more widely known, is that the quality of you're going to need to have a good product to serve the guest when they come.
Yeah, and so to your point about having the filters now, and you're saying these people are looking for a good property, they're kind of, if they're planning to live and work from somewhere, for example, they want more than just a property, they want the experience with it. How are you delivering on an experience beyond just a property and just an accommodation, and how are they kind of searching or finding that?
I mean, we're not. Actually, I have, the day I have the time and that we have the time and to sort of start doing that well, be a great day. I think we have still a lot of work to do and are just making sure people know about the property, the photos are correct, the description is correct, the mapping, and people are smart. I mean, typically people check a number of websites before they come in. So we have opted not to try to build all of that into our experience. I think there would be, my product team would kill me. They would. And I'm also not sure that, because I think one of the things that people misunderstand about travel is that, people want the Amazon one-click option. You don't.
Right.
Like, I buy travel guides. I go to look at the map. I look on nature trails that are nearby. And so for me, even before I travel, that gives me something that I start enjoying my holiday before I go. So anyway, I'm not saying we shouldn't, over time, maybe offer a few things. If you go to west part of Denmark, let's offer, maybe they want to go to Legoland, let's facilitate that. But we haven't done that to date.
How are you seeing search trends develop?
Yeah, so I think, so our general idea also is that you have on one side destinations as something that people search for, and on the other side a use case. Yeah, so like they want to go. That's also what is incorporated a little bit into our brand, a home to go dash, where we say like dash can stand for like you want to go surfing, you want to go something else. But it's not something that we procure as home to go, because we are centered around like finding the right home for your use case and so on. But for sure, it might offer opportunities for the future to connect that, but not like building an own product or experiences product from our side.
So let me just interject, because we also have destination pages, and my SEO team will kill me if I don't mention that we have those. So I'm going to kill by lots of teams, but yes, we have those. Do I think they're hugely influential in the booking journey? I'm not sure. Okay. Are they important for us for Google rankings? Absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry, SEO team, if you're in the room.
Your team thanks you.
There's lots of trouble I could get into here today.
Okay. I want to turn to consolidation because you've both made acquisitions amid the pandemic. You acquired Amivac in January, and you've had a string of acquisitions for a ways. What are you looking for when you make an acquisition? Is it location? Is it their technology? Is it their staff? Is it number of properties? Properties for you specifically, what are you looking for?
We're predominantly looking for great properties which we could get at a speed which we couldn't if we just, in certain areas, which if we just were doing it organically. Our main driver of growth is organic, but there are some pockets, like we made a few acquisitions recently, like in the island of Bornholm in Denmark, where we already had properties, but where we thought, like, well, this would be great, and we bought Bornholm Tours and got another 600 properties. So yeah, so predominantly it's led by the quality of the inventory that we see in a particular destination that would be very attractive to a guest.
How much of it is destination based, though?
A lot of it is destination based. So we will, as much as I love the north of Sweden, we just wouldn't. It's a beautiful area. There's not that many homes there. There's also, it's a very long winter, and so yes, it's very destination led, and so we tend to call them internally honeypot locations, and those are like Cornwall in the UK, or Istria and Croatia, for example, would be good examples, or the Baltic coast here in Germany as well, which is small, but Germans love to. I'm in Holland now, sorry, but I'm in trouble with the Dutch. So the Baltic coast, for example, a very good destination for us.
And how are you approaching acquisition?
Yeah, so like we have basically two ways. So like one thing why we did this back was obviously like getting capital also to do acquisitions. And one central element there is always like looking for companies where we see interesting demand on one side, access to supply, but on the other side, potential synergies from technology. Yeah, that's more like older companies. And then on the other side, we have this angle around building services around our marketplace, and where we look at companies that are interesting from a technology standpoint to add additional services to our subscription and services bucket.
Yeah, I recall that you acquired them specifically for your subscription and services platform. How has that been going since?
Good. Yeah, so I cannot complain. So we even doubled revenues in Q1 compared to 2021. So.
Great. So turning to the labor shortage, Henrik, I want to start with you. How are property management companies maintaining cleaning and maintenance staff, especially in more rural areas, as you were just discussing different locations? How has that been challenging?
The honest answer is we're paying more. It's we are part of the group. We also have a Dutch business that does parks, and it's the same everywhere. We see challenges on, and if you talk to the parks in the UK, you drive around, it's not just cleaning staff, it's cooks, check-in personnel. So I think by offering good benefits, adjusting salaries where we need to, and of course what people like as well is knowing that they will be employed not just for one day a week or just for part of the year, so making sure that we offer them longer-term employment options. So that's how we're doing it. Are we successful all the time, everywhere? Absolutely not.
Right.
I wish we were, but no, I think we're struggling, and I think it's a real issue. And of course, we operate in the UK as well, where on top of the problems that are basically almost global, then you have the Brexit challenges as well, so it makes it even more of a challenge right now.
Yeah. And Patrick, can you talk about it from a talent perspective? As a tech company, there's a lot of demand for tech workers. How have you been addressing staff and labor?
Yeah, so like we are headquartered like in Germany, in Berlin. Yeah, and obviously this is a tech hub. Yeah, and so you have a lot of competition around talent, and so you have seen that already through the last years, as part of probably the inflation we see now. Also that, or as a first thing that you saw there, that salaries went up like crazy because a lot of companies also got huge amount of funding, especially for sure in the private market. But we already see now with the layoffs of big like tech firms, late stage private companies and so on, that there is a good chance that it will get easier for instance, for us to get great talent on board, because the competition is lower, and so we are very well financed as a company, and this brings us in a very good position, especially in a time where people might then see that growth with just burning money is not only the safest place to work at.
Did you go, Patrick, did you go hybrid, like office? How do you do that?
Yeah, we are very proud of how we do it. We have, so we went completely, I would say, remote when COVID hit, obviously, but we had already this kind of hybrid function because we have a lot of offices and especially a huge tech hub in Lithuania. So we always had this kind of hybrid mode also in meetings, so we were used to it. And now we have what we call flexible work at home to go, where we basically don't have a policy, except for some legal restrictions you have, but basically people should choose themselves with their team lead what is the most efficient way for a certain thing to work on. And I think this is really, this is really working well for us. And it's also a great thing to get talent on board. So we try to hire people nonetheless in our hubs, but they have the flexibility, and especially also like we encourage them to do vacation. They should use our product. They should really try what we believe is a trend that is a use case for exactly the inventory we are catering to.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see more companies, especially in hospitality, adopting that sort of model?
I think so. So Airbnb adopted it as well, especially the CEO who lives on Airbnb now. But I don't know if every employee is allowed to do that. But in the end, I think it's worthwhile doing. And for us, it has been a success factor, because also people even more use the own product.
I think for us, I mean, we're also doing hybrid, and it's also, so I have some members of my team, and actually regardless of age group or tenure, who want to be in the office and want to have that buzz. And then I have some who really happy to be at home. And so I think it's we've gone hybrid for most functions. Our contact center, we have them in because we just get better performance when, and they can, because a lot of them need coaching, and so to have the supervisor where you can raise your hand and get in. But yeah, it's one of the, I'm fascinated by the subject, and I don't think we have all the answers. And I'm also thinking about, like, what is it like to start, if you come in as a new employee?
Yeah, definitely.
What's the data going to tell us in 10 years about, so we've gone hybrid. I like to see, and maybe because, but I've also been told by some of my younger team members that, well, Henrik, I build really good relationship over WhatsApp. I'm not you. So I think you have to be, I have to be humble about that as well, that I'm now sort of, getting to be the older generation, and that the new generation may have ways to find those networks even virtually. But yeah, it's an experiment in which we're all participating. But we couldn't hire people if we went 5 days a week. We just couldn't do it.
That goes back to the labor shortages, especially on the tech side, and what employees want and what they're going to get. But you did mention financing, so turning to SPACs now, which has been very hotly debated on this stage over the past few days. So you went public via SPAC in September. You're still owned by private equity. Can you talk a bit about why this model was right for your business? Is it right for your business?
Yeah, I think, like I said, at capital, right? Like for us, the main category was like getting capital for the business for our plans that we have. And at this point in time, it was obviously like definitely the right decision to go with a SPAC. We just deliberately chose one that has a good incentive scheme for the sponsor, and not like many American SPACs having this, like you get the full sponsorship. So in a SPAC, like the sponsor gets a huge amount of shares for basically building up the SPAC. And our incentive the incentive of the sponsor of our SPAC, the Lakestar SPAC, was more like tied to performance also of the stock. And so I think this was a really good combination, also like doing it for the first time as a German tech SPAC in Europe. So we pioneered a little bit there, and it was new things to learn, also like for everyone involved. But I think it was definitely the right decision, because we are now like having big amount of capital on our bank that we can work with, and that was the main thing. And also, like, being public is better than I thought. Yeah.
In what ways?
I think like it is really something that that also helps you, like, looking at certain things like your storytelling of the company, like how you can attract talent. Now also, like, we have with our LTI, so long-term incentives that we can give, like in terms of stocks to our people, something that is more liquid than if you are in the private market where you get virtual options that might 3, 4, 5 years get you liquidity. So I think this all is something I see as a big advantage for the company.
Okay. And your thoughts on SPACs?
Well, I think people mix up the company with the SPAC, and I think within SPAC there's two things. I mean, it's a technical way to bring a company public. The critique around SPAC was usually what you mentioned around what were the sponsorship incentives around it. So it's not necessarily, so I think that, you know, that technical way is actually not a crazy way to go public. I think what might be questioned is like, well, how are the incentives set up? And then, you know, we shouldn't necessarily associate like Home2Go or Vacasa with the SPAC. That was a way, there was a technical way in which to go public. So look, it's been around for decades. It became very, very popular, and maybe more around the, more around the sort of the sponsorship incentives than you know what it should have been, especially in the U.S. I read yesterday in the FT that of the 12 signed SPACs in Europe, because Europe did a lot fewer, I think only 8 were completed. So you're one of 8, which is, you know, kind of, you know, which is like in the U.S. there was hundreds of companies going that way, and like this year it's been 0.
Gone way down.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was such a popular move, especially in the U.S., for example?
Well, I think the financial markets are very creative, and if you know, and they're in one way very rational, but sometimes, you know, it sort of becomes like the you know, the tulip craze that Holland had in the 17th century, or the railroad boom in the U.S. So yeah, I think it was just a flavor of the month, basically, or flavor of the year.
I like creative. That's good. That's good. We're getting close on time here, so I do want to wrap up with each of you. What do you see as the biggest opportunity in short-term rentals right now? Start with you, Patrick.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the biggest opportunities definitely is the whole topic around using vacation rentals not only for vacation. Yeah, we see vacation and prolonging vacations and these topics as one big thing. And second big thing, maybe connected, is from our standpoint is like for sure bringing in more technology solutions to the supply side.
Yeah.
I think workation has something go for it, but a lot of the workation in the U.S. were people moving from the north to like Florida in winter. And so in Europe, I think we have the taxation issue is non-trivial. I know Airbnb is going to open source once they figured it out, but it's a non-trivial problem of you go to Spain and how you're going to tax people and what happens. And also in Europe, it's further to go if you want to go somewhere warm. Like in winter, I mean, you'd have to go to Dubai almost, or Canary Islands to get that warmth. I think that the biggest opportunity we see is just there's a lot of second homes around who are not yet rented out.
Right. Yep.
And we think that, you know, with rising interest rates and whatnot, this is a good way for a family to make a bit of extra money and still offer an incredible holiday for families and individuals.
And it builds up that supply, so also a good thing. All right. Thank you both. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.